In a globalized world, international trade is an important part of any developed economy, but taxes and transportation charges can drive up the price of goods immensely. That's why certain individuals risk their lives to smuggle goods from one country to the next and sell them wholesale. Today, we're looking at the craziest smugglers in history. The possession of weapons is a contentious subject these days, but that didn't stop a driver from trying to smuggle more than 50,000 bullets in the back of his pickup truck in the southernmost city in Texas. In Brownsville, Texas, stolen vehicles are often used to move narcotics and arms across the border, both to and from Mexico. Back in 2012, a border official noticed a white bed of the truck was welded shut and the bed liner showed signs of extensive work. With a team of highly trained canines, the officers were able to identify whether the truck contained narcotics, currency, or explosives. A dog quickly identified explosives in the truck and the team got to work. After pulling up the false floor of the truck, officers were amazed to find machine guns, handguns, loose bullets, and magazines of ammunition. In fact, the bed was more than 3 inches deep with ammunition, meaning that there were tens of thousands of live rounds at the officers' feet. Though it seems like a big score, the lead officer reiterated that it was merely a tiny dent in the total ammunition that passes over the border every day. Back in 2016, a Vietnamese man made a risky choice. He stuffed 18 live songbirds into his pants in an attempt to smuggle them into Taiwan. Agents with the Customs Department at Tan Son Nhat International Airport in Ho Chi Minh City announced the man was searched at the airport when suspicious items were detected inside his checked bag. Investigators said the man had devised special pouches for the live avians, which he had concealed in the legs of his baggy pants and his checked baggage. The Institute of Tropical Biology was consulted and determined 11 of the 18 songbirds were from endangered species, including white-rumped shamas, oriental shamas, and melodious laughing thrush. Because the songbirds are very valuable in Taiwan, it's hypothesized that the Vietnamese man was smuggling them in order to sell them on the black market. And this isn't the first instance of bird smuggling. Back in 2009, another Vietnamese man attempted to smuggle 10 songbirds into the US using an elaborate system of hand-stitched stocks. The rare songbirds sell for $10 to $30 in Vietnam, but can fetch as much as $400 in the US. The birds are now in quarantine and could be donated to a zoo if they are healthy. iPhones are a hot commodity. Each one can easily sell for more than $1,000, but these same phones are worth much more in certain economies than in others. In a process that's called commodities arbitrage, people will buy iPhones in a cheap economy and resell them in an expensive economy. That's exactly what one Chinese woman tried to do in 2017. She was stopped by customs officials while trying to move 102 iPhones into Shenzhen from Hong Kong. Her method was to tape the iPhones to her body. The Apple gadgets were hidden under layers of clothes and sealed in plastic wrapping. Customs officials who also uncovered 15 luxury watches became suspicious after noticing her upper body seemed to be out of proportion to her arms and legs. They also spotted the woman was wearing more clothes than appropriate in hot weather, according to Chinese media. 102 iPhones is an inarguably large amount of merchandise. Back in 2015, however, someone else reportedly took the dedication a step further by attempting a 146-device smuggle that included affixing 20 phones to his legs. Smugglers have also taken to flying hundreds of iPhones from Hong Kong using drones. This is one of the most bizarre smuggling situations on our list, but it was actually done in a pseudo-legal capacity. A van that appeared to have no driver made headlines when it was spotted in Arlington, Virginia back in 2017. From the road, the unmarked grey van eerily looks like it's moving without a driver. The entire front seat looks empty, but when a reporter looked inside, he saw a man wearing a beige and black costume that covered his entire torso. His arms poked out of the bottom of the costume to steer. His face was completely covered like that of a sports mascot who can see out but no one can see in. The company behind this study was Ford. They wanted to see how people reacted to a driverless car while still leaving a human backup inside of the moving vehicle, although he was not required to steer the car. The trial, conducted with the Virginia Tech Transportation Institute, also made use of a light bar mounted on the top of the windshield to provide communication about what the car was doing, including yielding, driving autonomously, or accelerating from a full stop. Nicknamed Car Seat Man, this corporate decision has been lampooned, but it's likely that driverless cars will become increasingly popular in the near future. A woman in Mexico attempted to break her husband out of prison by hiding him in a suitcase after a conjugal visit. Authorities noticed, however, that the suitcase looked bulky as she was leaving and stopped to check it. The man was serving a 20-year sentence for illegal weapons possession and was curled in the fetal position inside. The woman was arrested and charges are pending. A spokesman for police in the Caribbean state of Quintana Roo says staff at the prison in Chetumal noticed that the woman seemed nervous and was pulling a black wheeled suitcase that looked bulky. Cesar Manuel Castilla, a spokesman for Quintana Roo's Department of Public Safety, says that in any case, it would have been extremely difficult for the inmate to escape in the suitcase. We have 3 inspection stations at the prison and he was caught in the first one, Castilla said. In any case, she would have been asked to open the suitcase for inspection at the 3rd and last inspection station. I don't know what they were thinking. Obviously, this was a pretty lame escape attempt and the couple didn't make it very far. In the end, the man went straight back to prison. A man was arrested in Norway back in 2009 trying to smuggle 24 snakes and geckos into the country by hiding them under his clothes. Customs agent Helge Brelid said Monday the 22-year-old Norwegian citizen was apprehended in the southern town of Kristiansand after getting off a ferry from Hirtshals, Denmark. He said the man had 14 royal pythons and 10 albino leopard geckos under his clothes. He had also concealed a tarantula in his bag. Customs officials who found the spider in its unorthodox lair decided to search the man, discovering the scale of the offence. The non-venomous snakes were hidden in stockings taped to the 22-year-old's abdomen, while the geckos were in boxes taped to his thighs. Reptile smuggling is not uncommon in Norway, which prohibits people holding many reptile species as pets. But Helge Brelid, the office manager at Kristiansand Customs, was quoted by the newspaper as saying that customs officers had been horrified by this catch. Customs officers quickly realised the man was smuggling animals because his whole body was in constant motion, according to an officer. When the man dropped his pants, the officers found 10 cans taped to his legs, each containing a lizard, he said. A British man continued to serve as a mob boss from behind bars while he served out an armed robbery conviction. And he had an ingenious plan to supply drugs to inmates in Birmingham prison where he resided. He had his associates place the drugs in drones and flew them over the fence and into the prison compound where inmates would surreptitiously pick them up. In total, they smuggled more than £1 million worth of drugs. The group were convicted of organising 49 drone flights, although police believe the actual number may be higher. They were also found guilty of 4 throwovers, with one of the gang spotted on CCTV with an improvised hook ready to collect the goods from inside prison. The ringleader's brother was jailed for 4 years and 8 months for his significant role. Passing sentence, Judge Roderick Henderson said, "Prisons are difficult enough places to run. They contain people who are dangerous and vulnerable. Supplying things into prison that should not be there, drugs, phones, tools and the like, threatens proper management of prisons and creates real risks of violence and loss of control and discipline. To do that is desperately serious." Police officers were stunned when they found nearly £500,000 in cash in the back of a van in Birmingham, England. A spokesperson for Leicestershire Road's policing unit wrote, "Following a stop check on a van earlier on today, we've seized quite a bit of cash out the rear of the vehicle. We estimate it to be in the region of £465,000. Driver has been arrested and will have some explaining to do." The car was first pulled over because of the scent of marijuana emanating from the vehicle. But instead of a drug bust, officers found a huge volume of cash, which is likely tied to some sort of illegal activity. Because cash is the preferred currency for criminals, cops know that they can often trace it back to the source of the crime. 16 kilograms of gold bars were recovered in an airport in Delhi back in 2016. The ingenious smugglers almost got away with it too. They made it through security at the airport in Dubai, where they obtained the gold by stuffing it into the diapers of their babies. This was a huge bust because the gold was worth well in excess of $8 million. The passenger, who hails from Mumbai, was caught with a total of 48 diapers. Senior customs officials said the family had been staying in Dubai for the last 15 years. They earned good salaries and said they had savings. Asked about the source of the gold biscuits, they said they had bought it as it was the cheapest source of investment. However, we are investigating further, an official said. They are just a few of the dozens of foreign nationals who have been arrested for bringing assets into the country by controversial Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Commodities are much cheaper to produce in Eastern Europe because of discrepancies in currency with their Western counterparts. For exactly this reason, there is a robust smuggling business from Eastern Europe into Western Europe. Recently, Russian smugglers came up with an original way to bring cigarettes into the West by hiding thousands of them inside hollowed-out tree trunks. The cigarettes had been manufactured in Belarus and were heading to the address of a private company in Poland from where they were supposed to be shipped onto Germany and the UK. However, they were stopped at a customs checkpoint in Ukraine where they uncovered more than 25,000 packs of tobacco. As a result of a random check, we discovered one of the trunks appeared to have been tampered with, and after looking more closely, it was found that the tree trunk had been hollowed out and packed with cigarettes, and then the end of the trunk had been replaced to cover up the crime, said Border Guard spokesman Arkhip Glazkov. In total, it took 55 trees to move this much contraband across the border.